As we know, many people in Jesus' time saw him as the Messiah, the worldly king who would liberate the Jewish people from Roman oppression. A couple of thousand years later, we mark a modern oppression, the Holocaust of the Second World War, which saw the tyranny of Nazi Germany unleashed on 6 million Jews. Today is Yom Ha'Shoah. And to find out more about this day of remembrance, I spoke to Kris Clancy from the Holocaust Centre in New Zealand. Kia ora, Kris, and welcome to Shine TV. We certainly appreciate you making time for us on what is a very important day, a very busy day, I'm sure, ahead of the Yom Ha'Shoah commemorations this evening.
Good. Yes, thank you for having me, and thank you for giving the Holocaust Centre in New Zealand a chance to explain why this day is so important.
Firstly, what does Yom Ha'Shoah mean? I'm not even sure if I pronounced that correctly. Talk to us about what it means and why it is such an important day.
Your Hebrew is quite well, so you did very good there. Yom HaShoah is actually a shortened version of the Hebrew. The full name is Yom HaZikaron LaShoah VeLaGevurah, which means the day of remembrance for the Shoah, which is the Hebrew word for Holocaust. It means catastrophe, and for resistance. Originally, the day was to commemorate the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, but since the 1950s, it is included now to commemorate all of the victims of the Shoah and to remember the victims as well as those that fought back against the Nazis and their collaborators.
Today is a specific day, an important day in the calendar. Talk to us about the significance of this day.
So today begins at sundown. All Jewish commemorations and holidays begin at sundown on the eve of the holiday. It's actually a compromise between religious and non-religious Jews, as well as a way to honor our cultural heritage. In the Jewish calendar, we do have other days that we can use to commemorate those that have been murdered for being Jews. Whether it's the 10th of Tevet, which is the most common one, also Tisha B'Av, which is commemorating the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. But for many of the Holocaust survivors in the 1950s, the belief was that the Holocaust was too recent and too big of an event to commemorate on one of those other days. It needed its own. And so it became an agreement between the rabbinate of Israel, the chief rabbi, and the more secular Jews that it would fall during the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, which itself began on Pesach or Passover, but it would not fall during a time of fasting. And so that's why it falls during the 27th of Nisan, rather than on, say, May 8th, which is VE Day, or on one of the other Jewish holidays that we have to commemorate martyrdom.
As you mentioned, this is a relatively recent event commemorated in terms of the scale of Jewish history, but still it's very difficult for the current generation perhaps to get their head around the atrocities, to realise the bravery of many of the 6 million victims. How do you convey the enormity of what happened, particularly to a younger generation?
To any generation, the first thing I always say is it's not about the number. When we focus on that number, whether it's 6 million Jewish victims, 1.5 million children who were murdered, we actually are taking away part of their humanity. What we need to focus on is the individual victim itself, because then we're giving them back their voices. These were 6 million people who had hopes and dreams. They loved, they hated, they wanted to go and visit other places. That's how we need to convey this. Because when we connect on that human level of, I know what I want to do with my life, I know where I want to be, I can understand that loss. When we talk about just 6 million, it's impossible for the human mind to comprehend. Yeah. We can't even picture it. So we have to connect on that individual level.
When it comes to commemorating this event, certainly a tragedy, but talk to us about how the event is commemorated, particularly when it comes to people perhaps from other faith backgrounds, people who don't have an understanding of some of the spiritual context, perhaps.
Commemorating the Holocaust is unique in the way that we actively have both a Jewish and a secular outlook to it. From a religious standpoint, we do say the prayers for Yizkor, which means remembrance, as well as El Maleh Rachamim, God full of compassion or God full of mercy, and we say the mourner's Kaddish. So that's the religious aspect to it. From a more secular standpoint, it's about remembering these victims as humans, remembering that the only reason they were targeted was because of hate. The only reason that this one group, or if you include Roma and Sinti, Jehovah's Witnesses, homosexuals, they're all targeted for no other reason than hate. And that's a human understanding. We all can understand that regardless of our religious background. And I don't know of a single religion on this planet that actually propagates hate. Religion is meant to bring us together. It's meant to give us a guidebook for how to make this world a better place. And that's what these commemorations are about. We remember the victims, and it's a call to action to improve this world. It's a call to make sure that when we say never again and never forget, they're not just hollow words, that we actually are doing something to stop genocide and to stop discrimination.
Talk to us some more about the commemoration activities tonight and over the next couple of days, in fact. From a Jewish community point of view, what are some of the key aspects of the commemoration?
So tonight, here in Wellington, as well as in Auckland, we'll gather together as a community. And one of the things that we do in Judaism is we light a Yizkor or a Yahrzeit candle. It's a remembrance candle. There's a lot of different beliefs around what it means. Some say that it's lighting the way to the afterlife. Others, like my mother, for example, it's her parents coming back to visit her and getting a chance to reconnect with those that have gone. Within the community, it's a solemn night. It's not a night for celebration. It's more of, intrinsically looking of how are you making this world better. In Israel, there will be a siren that will ring for the victims of the Holocaust. Most things are shut down. There's no movie theaters open. Restaurants generally are closed. TV will switch to showing Holocaust-related themed shows, whether it's movies or documentaries. Each community does remember differently because each community is made up of different backgrounds of how they've been affected by the Holocaust. As a worldwide community, the goal is for us to come together and to remember that it's not the first time this has happened, actually. Jews have been expelled from countries throughout the time, and this was just the worst time. And we need to remember that it can happen again, and that the only way we can prevent it from happening again is to be active, is to be a part of our wider community and showing that we're just like everybody else, that we are people who live and love. And tonight is that reminder that we have to be part of that wider community. We can't be insular.
On this occasion, it happened shortly after Anzac Day, and in some ways, is there a comparison between the two in the way, I suppose, New Zealand society solemnly commemorates Anzac Day? It's not a celebration, it's remembering those that are lost and recognising that we want the world to be a better place.
I definitely see that there is a correlation between Anzac Day, or in my home country, we have Memorial Day and Veterans Day. Because one of the biggest myths about the Holocaust is that Jews didn't fight back, is that Jews were, as they say, lambs led to the slaughter. That's not true. Whether we fought back with guns and knives and bombs, we also fought back spiritually by continuing to be Jews. There's the famous pictures of the matzah being made for Passover in the Warsaw Ghetto in the underground, because it was at that time illegal to practice Judaism. Those men and women who were doing that risked their lives to continue to be who they were. That's a form of resistance. Sending your children to a Jewish school in the ghetto, or sending your children to live with a non-Jewish family in the hopes that they survive, is resistance. That's what it's about. It's about not giving in to the hate. It's not losing that hope, and remembering that there were those who died so that we can be here and live freely as we do today.
And I suppose, like Anzac, lest we forget, let us continue to remember what happened all those years ago. All these years later, I suppose the question is, do you feel that the world is a better place? Are we successful in making this a safer place for people of all faiths and none to continue to enjoy life and to celebrate life together?
From where we were in 1945 to where we are today, I can't say the world's worse or the world is better. I would say the world has changed. Yep. From that day, it's no longer acceptable to actually be openly anti-Islam, anti-Judaism, anti-Christianity, or anti-no faith. We've at least started to accept the belief that we all do have that right to a belief or no belief. we have a long way to go. It's human nature that change is slow and that change takes time. But it only starts with one person. That's what I always tell students when they come into our center for our programming, is that it only takes one. It doesn't need to be a rich person. It doesn't need to be a famous person. And it doesn't even need to be an adult. Teenagers and children can often affect more change than adults can because of their innocence and their willingness to think outside the box. So I do think we are creating the groundwork for that next generation to continue making this world a better place.
And not only with the commemorations this evening, but also through the work of the Holocaust Centre. Now, we've just managed to scratch the surface of this very important story, but I'm sure if people did want to find out more, and particularly perhaps for the younger generation, the Holocaust Centre, that'd be a wonderful place to start.
Absolutely. Our center is here in Wellington. We've been here since 2012. We offer programming for students and teachers to come and visit on a wide variety of Holocaust topics. Our center also, uniquely to it shows the relationship to New Zealand. Many of the places I've been to in the world don't really show that connection. Here you see exactly what New Zealand was doing and not doing during the Holocaust. We do have traveling exhibitions around the country if you can't come here. We have the Anne Frank exhibition, which recently just closed down in Timaru and will be opening up in Gisborne. We have the Children's Holocaust Memorial, which is a project of Mariah Day School that used to be here at the Wellington Jewish Community Center. They collected 1.5 million buttons to represent the children that died in the Holocaust. And so that's a traveling exhibition for people to see and learn about that. And then we have a new exhibition that just came out. It's called Finding Hope, Seeking Refuge in Aotearoa, New Zealand. And it examines New Zealand's relationship with the Jewish refugees that came before and after the Holocaust, and how the government and the wider society responded to those that came here. And that's available for people to bring to their churches or to their schools or community centers. And what's great about this is it's in a graphic novel style. So it's not heavily reliant on text. It's more visual appealing. And we just recently took it to Freiburg College 2 weeks ago. And the response that we got back from it was amazing. The kids connected with it so well because they were able to see themselves in the artwork rather than just reading the words on a piece of paper.
Tremendous resources available, and if people wanted to find out more about that, or perhaps when the various tours are in different parts of Aotearoa, more information on the website?
You can have more information on our website, www.holocaustcenter.org.nz, or you can call us. Our phone number is on the website. We take pop-ins if you want to just come in. A lot of the times, that's how most people find us. Or if you want to email me, you're more than welcome to email me, and you can put my email up for people to email me and ask questions. I'm available during the day, and I answer as quickly as I can.
Kris, we thank you for the generosity of the time you've given to us today. We better let you go and prepare for tonight's events and commemoration activities. Thank you so much for taking the time to be part of the program today.
Thank you. Tadaaba.